Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of From Adversity to Awakening, transforming hardships into greater spiritual connection and joy. I have today a very special guest, a new friend. Many of my guests have been longtime friends. This is a new friend. We are stellar opposites. He's probably 6'3", and but he sits next to me at my Art of Living breathing sessions every Saturday morning. I met him recently, and he was such an inspiration to me. I wanted to have him. Welcome, Sam Thomas.
Well, it's good to be here.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Peggy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. So Sam has an amazing story. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He's a lawyer. He's been practicing attorney for 28 years, currently operating and is off in Beechwood, Ohio. And many of you may remember that I moved from California to Cleveland some months ago. So his office is right down the street from me. He's a sole practitioner focusing on estate planning. He was inspired to become an attorney to help improve the quality of life for all people. In his professional and volunteer roles, he realized the need to bring community services to the doorsteps of the community. He is a two-time graduate of Cleveland State University, earning an undergraduate degree in business administration while competing as a member of the varsity basketball team. If you look at Sam when he's standing up, you'd know that from in a minute. He migrated with his family from a working farm outside Montgomery, Alabama, when he was 8 years old, and has been achieving ever since. So, what a journey to go from a farmer, maybe like migrant farmer, to living in another state where it's cold and having a whole other life experience, going to Cleveland State University twice, becoming a varsity basketball player, and now being a lawyer and a community good doer. So, Sam, I know that you have so much to share with us, and I would love to hear and have you share with our audience how you like some of the challenges that you've gone through, especially maybe like the biggest challenges. What's been the greatest adversity that you've faced in your life, would you say?
Thanks for that, Peggy. I would have to say that it's been an issue with self-esteem, having
Uh-huh.
low self-esteem.
Hmm.
Can you imagine coming off of a farm where life revolved around, getting up with my grandfather each morning and going out and milking the cows and getting the family ready for its full day of working in the fields, riding horses, etc., to moving to Cleveland, Ohio, having to go to a formal school setting for the first time in my life. And I immediately failed because I didn't know what school was about. They put me in the third grade because of my age. And I resolved to myself, that'll never happen again. Um,
But you didn't know how to read and all that.
I I knew how to read. I learned about the Bible, so I
Uh-huh.
guess I knew how to read, but not with very proficiently.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, just enough to be able to read the Bible, but never any practice that would come with being a student in school.
Okay.
So that was a lesson for me that I think had an impact on one of my biggest challenges is a low self-esteem.
Uh-huh.
Now I
So,
had very high self-esteem on the farm, you know,
right.
being just about the youngest in the family and being able to get up with my granddad and go and do all the chores and get everything ready for a full day of farm work. There was nothing transferable to the skills I needed to be a student,
No,
uh, to be
nothing.
a good neighbor, not climbing on people's garages, and etc. That pretty much started out labeling me as bad, and I interpreted that I was a bad kid. That
Did they
low.
label you as stupid?
Um, no, I never got that.
Well, why
Um,
bad? What did you do that was bad?
Well, like I said, climbing on, when I was on the farm, I mean, there was no limit to my physicality, you
Oh,
know.
right.
So you climb on people's garages
Yeah. Climb up on
and
on everything, right? And then you're in an urban environment.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so after I failed that course or failed that school year, I buckled down. I had two sisters at the time. So we studied together. We played hopscotch and jacks together. And we played, just different girl games. So naturally, that set me up to be labeled by the boys. And I had to overcome the bad names that they would call me as a result of my lifestyle, being a good student, which I became, and
Uh-huh.
also the things I did with my sisters.
Mhm.
So I
Right.
got tired of that. So what do? I learned to play their games, right?
Right. Right.
And despite all of the successes I had as an athlete, um, I still had um, low self esteem that had been embedded in me that I had, that was probably at the center of my being.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and that low self esteem caused, had its ramifications, um, throughout and reverberated throughout my life in terms of just feeling I wasn't good enough, um, that I would procrastinate or I wouldn't take on challenges. Uh, it was pretty frustrating.
So your low self-esteem sort of sabotaged your your opportunities for success.
Yes,
Mhm.
because of the doubt,
Uh-huh.
and as a
Right.
result of that
Yeah.
doubt,
Yeah.
um,
You didn't
I
take risks.
right, I didn't take risks,
Yeah.
and even when I did make good decisions, Peggy, I would question whether or not that was a good decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what self-doubt will do, right?
Yes,
Self-doubt will
yes.
be there at every point saying, you can't really do it. You can't really do it.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. So how did you overcome all that and work your way into not only being, you know, a star varsity
Oh,
basketball player, but an attorney and now a community good doer?
well, it's been a long journey. The
Mm,
part of my bio that we didn't talk about was after I finished undergrad school, and
mm-hmm.
I had been known at that point in my life as a basketball player
Right.
because of high school in Cleveland, and I went to Cleveland State University. So that was my only identity. Um, People thought that I should have continued, in sports for a living, but I only did it, remember, to overcome all of the bad names and hostility towards me by my peers, the
Fit-
boys.
To fit in and gain acceptance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was accepted, but that was my only means of being accepted. And when given the opportunity to go away from Cleveland to Indiana University, I worked on a couple of degrees for my master's, higher ed administration and counseling and guidance. And it
Great.
was in the context of that counseling and guidance that I, picked a personal counselor and confronted the dilemma that I had inside of me that divided me.
Very good.
Um,
Huh.
I was uh, beginning to question the value of being a good athlete because at some point in high school after I started um, playing basketball and in college, well, I kind of put down the books and I just felt I was torn between the two and thought that being a good athlete was not a good thing. And in other words, all the decisions that I was making, um, I doubted them and I questioned them. But
Right.
what this counselor did was he got me to see that, here I could do both. I was a good athlete
Yeah,
as well as a good student. So I went on to matriculate through Indiana University with my dual program with nearly a 4-point average.
beautiful.
Um, but guess what, Peggy? That still was not good enough for me. Um,
I understand. I understand very well. I really understand this as a person who grew up with low self-esteem as well, and achievement, achievement, achievement.
right. And so I think part of what I did was having been raised through in the formative years, if you will, from 8 until, probably even until today, I still have vestiges of that. Um, if you have been raised and socialized to believe that you have low self esteem, that you're bad, that you're not as good as somebody else, um, then after a while, you participate in some self fulfilling
Prophecy,
prophecy and,
definitely.
and behaviors.
Yeah,
And I had my share of those
yeah.
in undergrad school. I got in trouble, and so I was a bad boy.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah, but that
fulfilled that
that fulfilled your prophecy. Yeah. So
exactly.
I'm curious, you haven't really talked about the notion of being a black person in the midst of
Hmm.
all this because I mean, in basketball, I guess it's a predominantly black male you know,
Hmm.
population, but in undergraduate and graduate school for sure, I'm sure there were some challenges to that. So, I'm going to ask you to think about that question for 1 second because the sun is going down and I need to turn the light on for a sec. 1 minute.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to do much, but a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so how how much did being a black person impact the challenges that you faced in your life? Was it an issue or not at all?
It was an issue, but I was shielded from most of the pain of racism when I was at Cleveland State University because of the basketball thing.
Because
I
you were
was
an athletic star.
exactly, and I
Uh-huh.
was, and that was it was a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Uh-huh.
That it shielded me from most episodes of racism being directed towards me. Um, I can remember one professor happened to be on outside of the classroom on the elevator with him, and he made some pretty derogatory remarks to me. Not, nothing blatant or anything like that, but if you read between the lines and kind of try to understand why he would say something like that, it was not a good thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, but again, those episodes were few and far in between.
And
And
how about when you got to law school?
well, when I had an episode when I was at Indiana University, which was, in the state of Indiana, was where the Klan was founded. And for the most part, those kids didn't know me from, that I was a basketball player. They just knew me as being in charge. I had an assistantship, and I was in charge of a couple of residence halls at Indiana University. And for the
Okay.
most part, the kids were really good and respectful, and followed my lead. I was in charge of full campus discipline, so I got their respect. But there was one kid who said something that still resonates with me, and it had to do with him saying that you've got a. I think I mentioned something about my mother, and made the derogatory remark, "You got a mother," as though a black person. It was to put me down.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, almost inhumane.
yeah,
Inhuman, dehumanizing you. That's the
right,
statement. It's
right.
dehumanizing.
Right. But that didn't
Yeah.
deter me from continuing to um, do what I could to educate
Yes.
This mostly, white students who was making their transition from high school to college and to adulthood. So
Right.
that was my role. That was a training,
I
that I was
see.
going through in order
Yeah. Yeah.
to do that.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Great. So the your counselor helped you to recognize that you could be both a successful, it's almost like mindset training, that he opened your mind to you're a good student, you're a good athlete, and why not pursue achieving in both, which you went on to do, which I think is amazing.
Mhm.
And are there any other things that you would say besides that shift in mindset that supported you? I mean, it sounded like also wanting to escape being teased and
Mhm.
outcast, that
Mhm.
was another big motivation for you. Anything else that helped you overcome the adversities?
Absolutely. Um,
Lay it on me, Sam.
the biggest thing was that despite all of the things I'm telling you about my low self-esteem, I still had enough faith and love in myself that I got from my early readings of the Bible, that we're
Beautiful.
all created
Mhm.
equal.
Yes.
And so, no matter what that college professor said to me, or that student at Indiana University, or all of the readings that I have become familiar with in terms of, you know, all of the racism and institutionalized racism in this country, and how people that look like me are not supposed to die natural deaths as a result of the institutionalized racism. I still, am hopeful and have a lot of faith, that um, for a person to do what I've done, which is basically self determination,
Yes.
that I
Yes.
want this, I want that, and I try to
Yes.
instill that same thing into younger people.
Yes. Very good.
But to answer your question, people saw in me, that love that I had for myself and for God, and they embraced me.
Very beautiful.
Uh, my
Great.
high school coach exposed me to more than just the neighborhood that I was living in. That gave me an opportunity to say, you know what, I think I want to go to college. And I used basketball, as a vehicle to earn my, scholarship through Cleveland State University. But it's the people that they've seen, the bad in me, but at the same time, they've seen enough good in order to encourage me and to mentor me and to love me, help me become the person that I am today.
That's beautiful. So, self beliefs and
Mm-hmm.
yes, self beliefs, it sounds like in your life have had two fulfilling prophecies. One
Mm-hmm.
that, undermines you, I'm not enough, and makes you
Mm-hmm.
sabotage and all that. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have this other, more maybe deeper, more core understanding about your intrinsic goodness and your
Mm-hmm.
connection with God, and that you're created equal, and that you're an
Mm-hmm.
expression of God's light, all of
Mm-hmm.
that. And that also became a self-fulfilling prophecy, because that's what
Mm-hmm.
people, because you could see it in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and other
Yeah.
people could see it in you too. So
Mm-hmm.
this is an amazing, and I feel like that's for me a very, very big piece of how I have overcome low self-esteem, is
Mm-hmm.
recognizing my divine nature and living
Mm-hmm.
according to that. And then people just they see it in me, whether they believe in God or not, and
Mm-hmm.
they respect me. Kids respect me. I don't really get pointed at and laughed at anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a whole other ball game, because I have that what you had, and also your determination. I think that is a lot, that you just kept having goals. You not only became a basketball star, but then you went on to go to graduate school, and then you became a lawyer. So tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Well, as I indicated, and as you shared with our audience, I wanted to be an instrument that would bring a very important factor to my community. And that factor is what protects our individual rights, our ability to have equal employment, equal housing, fair, just an equal society, better police community relations. Well, the thing that does that for us is the Constitution. So,
Yes.
how do you learn about the Constitution? Well, I said to myself, let's go to law school, Sam, so that I can learn how we protect ourselves with the Constitution.
Beautiful.
Um, Not to become a lawyer that I went to law school. I just wanted to learn that because at the time, the job that I had after I returned back to Cleveland after 10 years of absence for grad school and then working at Ohio Wesleyan University in charge of total campus discipline in a residence hall, Ohio State University, Ohio Institute of Technology. I said, you know what? I want to go back home and become a part of a team to help improve the quality of life for everyone. And George Voinovich, who is the mayor of the city of Cleveland, shortly after I came back from my 10 years absence, I was hired in a department called Community Relations, and we were responsible for providing a forum to help people um, develop amicable relations towards one another. At the time, there were about 65 different ethnic groups in the city of Cleveland, and probably a
Wow.
similar number now. But during my tenure, there was a lot of racial violence in the city of Cleveland.
Yes.
Uh, and my job was to uh, bring together the different factions in the community to help people to realize one way or another, either the high touch or the low touch, that we all have these equal rights in order to in living in this city. So that was a big part of my job, and I felt that we had where I think the first year that Mayor Voinovich appointed me to the role that I was in, we had about 75 racial incidents where people who moved into parts of the city where they were never lived before, they were racially isolated. Their homes were, in one case, was firebombed. This older woman died, and there
Mm,
were a lot of just spirit murder. We had one situation where the white people in the community painted the house with racial epithets so
mm.
that an 8-year-old girl would ask on television, what would make white people do us this way? And so, for me, here's another thing that, these are all things, coming at me, and I can deal with them as we all have our choices of how we're going to deal with it.
Yes.
Um, so, Peggy, each day that I live, I can process that stuff a little better because of knowledge and the wisdom, that I have gained. Peggy and I know one another through the Art of Living Foundation, and that's where we learn how to be still through meditation and our breathing, and the kind of discourse that we had this morning, where we get to know ourselves first of all, and we become centered
Yes.
so that, as Peggy said earlier, she described me uh, getting in touch with, what I was born with and what my early teachings were, that we're all good. And through this education that we're getting in the art of living, I'm learning to get more in touch with that so that when somebody like that professor or that student says something negative to me, I don't see that anymore,
Very good.
um,
Yeah.
anymore as the totality of that person.
Very
I
good.
say that that
Or the
person,
totality of you, more importantly.
exactly. I don't see them as somebody to hate.
Yes.
That's just, somebody that, there's a good part, and I try to see that good part in them because they
Right.
have brothers, they have a mother, they have maybe, children of their own.
Right.
And I'm sure that they have a soft, warm, loving spot in them, and that's what I see. And
Yeah.
I don't hold that against them,
Yeah.
because to hold grudges like that and hate, it does more harm to the person that's doing the hating than those that you're hating on.
That is sure, for sure the truth. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that your journey has brought you to a place where, you were talking about where we met, where we
Mm-hmm.
come into contact with our true nature, with,
Mm-hmm.
we go inside and settle down below the chatter and the stress and all of that. And we come to
Mm-hmm.
that place inside our spark of life connected to source, right? So I love that that also for you and for me is a part of our for me it's a resiliency tool. For me
Yes.
it's a thing that like self-esteem becomes less and less of an issue. The more I
Mm-hmm.
know who I am and I'm the boss of me and I define who I am and Shri Shri's one of Shri Shri's point of the foundational knowledge is don't be a football to the opinions of others, right? So
Right.
people with low self-esteem are the football of other people's opinion, and being able to grow out of that and to understand, like have your own sovereignty, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
know who you are and that you have value no matter what you achieve
Mm-hmm.
or don't
Mm-hmm.
achieve or who likes you or doesn't like you or who esteems you, whatever, that you know who you are and you're able to carry on your life from that place. And then I loved, Sam, that you're embodying and living that way has brought you to a place where you care not only about you and your family, but also about your community, and that you're actively engaged in helping people to open their hearts, open their
Mm-hmm.
minds, and to
Yes.
be inclusive and kind. So this is beautiful. So this is the story that happens as human evolution happens. Like this is the
Mm-hmm.
maturation, normal
Mm-hmm.
maturation that a person who continues to grow and learn and evolve goes through. So
Mm-hmm.
can you share with our audience a little bit about the kind of connection? I mean, certainly it has connected you to your community. It's
Mm-hmm.
connected you to the people that you're helping. Um,
Mm-hmm.
would you like, I mean, I just want to know how have you, these things that have helped you become who you really are and be
Yes.
your truth and overcome the challenges of low self-esteem and
Mm-hmm.
poor beginnings and all that, to
Yeah.
have a place where you connect, and also how that brings you more joy in your life.
The joy is brought through knowing, like you said, I'm the boss of me.
Right.
And I put out into the universe what I want to put out there. And that I put out there comes from inside of me. So if there's negativity and hurt and pain, then that's what I'm going to put out into the universe. And
Exactly.
that's what's going to come back on me. Just this morning in our session, it came to me, that, everybody's good. And I'm going to overlook the, the negative part of them and put into them, this positive love, that I have for them. And there's just something about my evolution and bringing me to where I am today. And this conversation that we're having now, it's so timely because I'm in the throes of, people coming to me. And I'll start with, I'm the president of the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging. And what brought me to that organization is my parents. My dad died 97 years of age,
Wow.
Not October, August 13th, 2024.
Gosh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
Dad died at home. He wanted to, he died in hospice at home. My mother is still living.
Wow.
Uh, she has blood pressure of 107 over 64, not taking any medication other than just some aspirin for minor pains that she has from time to time. Uh, so what I'm saying is that the people in that organization are coming to me saying to me, let's do this together, let's do that together, and it's just like all of a sudden, I'm just realizing that I'm worthy of the things that, and I'm open to uh, people loving me, which
Beautiful.
is something when I was bad, I wasn't worthy of that being
Yeah,
loved.
right,
And I put that out into the universe,
right.
whether it was physical, whether it was spiritual. But the universe has a way of recognizing, who you are, whether it's tangible or intangible. And I just think that where I am now, my spirit is very loving, and people are responding in a similar fashion.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. And how has that experience of being loved and honored by people brought more joy in your life, Sam?
By accepting
Uh-huh.
what people are offering me,
Yeah,
their love,
yeah.
and just the I became tearful. You were right next to me. I don't know if you noticed. I got tearful this morning when I realized the goodness in people
Beautiful.
as opposed to the negative.
Yes.
We want to live in a positive world, a positive situation. It feels so much better than to be, hung up on all of the inequities in life. Just feels so much better to be able to see a person as love and the world being loved. That feels real good.
Well, I picked that up from the first time I talked to you, and that's why I invited you to come
Mhm.
and talk to my audience. It's such a joy to experience you and to hear your story. And I would say, I wanted to add a little antidote about people being loving. And
Mhm.
for me in your story, there's a thread of you recognizing your inner divine goodness and that it has gone through your life and it has supported you in being determined and developing new skills and new mastering skills and reaching out to the community. And now you're in a place where there's a lot of love and appreciation coming towards you. But I also think I don't think it's that people love us and therefore we experience being lovable. I think when we experience ourselves as being goodness,
Yes.
as being love, as being divine expressions of divine creativity, that
Mhm.
then other people then see that in us and then we're able to see it more in others and it just is a snowball effect. That's why it's so important for people to work with their challenges and have a coach, have a counselor, have someone who helps them recognize how they're getting in their own way and limiting themselves, etc., and to come back to see and have a spiritual guide or teacher that helps them get in touch with that core to goodness. So you're a stellar example of what I hope all human beings will evolve into. Sam,
Mhm.
such a pleasure to hear your story and have you share it so eloquently with us. So thank you. Are there any, let's see, if people, yeah, I know that you work with probate and actually we're going to do a little work about that together probably after this call. So,
Yes.
um, let's see, is there something, is there a place where people can, if people want help with that, can they call you? Can they email? Do you have, how did people get a hold of you?
My phone number is my cell phone that comes to me day and night. It's 216-229-1521. 216-229-1521. And I just like to say, as I offer my service, I come from the orientation of estate planning. And if you do it right, then 100% of what you own can go to the people that you love. And if you don't have the right program, well, then the government and creditors and others will take your stuff and 100% will not go to the people you love. I can teach people how to make it go to the people they love and avoid probate.
Yes, beautiful. So great. We'll have your number show up on the screen. And all right. Well, is there any parting words that you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Do whatever you need to do in order to become centered, to
Mm,
let your center and your values and your goals control all of your outgoings into the community. It will enable you to withstand all the painful experiences and negativity of the world. If you are centered, it does not impact and detract from your goal to be loving and peaceful and giving and as you know as God wants us to be.
what a beautiful message to end on. Thank you so much, Sam Thomas. And we'll talk a little after we hang up, and everybody else. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next in 2 weeks with another episode, another person with an amazing story. So tune in, and until then, keep shining your light, knowing who you truly are, and being the love. All right, so bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.